Well, how do we know when people are committed? Because you look at, some of the politicians in Congress.
I'm writing a lot of executive. So I'm writing a lot of executive orders. Like one, you will not be able to be a politician and own any commodities. A lot of
Mhm.
people are not going to want to put their like the option of a blind trust is going away
Okay.
because you
Okay.
still know what you paid for. Even if you're not watching it, you know what you paid for. So
Right.
a legislator should not own any commodities. Legislature should legislature people in Congress and Senate. I don't know why my tongue's not working. They should
Okay.
all be required to have an age cap and term limits. It's the same
Okay.
thing the Senate set up in the 70s for judges. So it's not like a new precedent. We had no problem with it before. The other thing, now that you're not owning commodities, you do not get a salary. You would get the same index living wage that the poorest person in your district gets
Mm.
because that's how we know that you really give a flip. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Once we remove the prestige from being in politics, once we remove the profit motive from being in politics, I have a funny feeling only people that are going to be in politics are the people that want to preserve life.
Because it's interesting too, because I know a lot of politicians when I was running and just in local community, there are some that don't even go door to door or put out ads or anything because they know they're getting back in office.
Yeah,
Rarely,
you don't have to.
yeah.
So, I mean, like, not to be funny, we have gotten on several, over 7 states' ballots without knocking on doors,
Okay.
without putting out, like, it's not a requirement if you follow the rules that are on the paper. I
Right.
want to be clear. I am a regular person, but I am going to use every advantage we have to succeed. And so, if, for example, to get on a state's ballot for Louisiana, it's $500. No signatures required. We didn't go get
No.
signatures. We used the funds that
Wow.
we fundraised and we paid the fee. Right?
Okay.
Mississippi was $2,500. I'm sorry. That's what I'm saying. Every state is different. What we
Wow.
have found out is that people have not. We have found out that a lot of the issues with some of the political parties is in the past they've never tried to win. They have only tried to run to push the Democrats more left. We are the first
Okay.
political party that is like trying to win.
So how much of it do you think is really money when you're
It's
running
only three hundred
for?
thousand dollars to get on all. It is only $300,000 to get on all 50 states ballots. It would be another
Wow.
$200,000 to pay my staff. It is not. The reason that they say it's billions of dollars is because they're paying for advertising. They're having
Right.
private dinners. They're flying everywhere. My staff and I, we travel via a bus, a
Okay.
converted schoolie bus. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like that was $5,000 that was put down to convert that bus to save. Because one of the things that people don't understand, when you, no matter if you're talking about a Democrat or Republican, you ever notice they don't demonstrate their frugality when it
Right.
comes to
Yeah. Yes.
campaigning? You know what I'm saying? They have no problem wasting billions of dollars because it's your money. It's not their money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Legally, campaigns can't mix the funds. And when you do, that's when you go to jail. So people don't understand that these people have a very big high profit motive. And when we remove that, we will get a better quality people, a better quality environment.
Yeah. Because I always feel that at one point, people who were in office, they had to go door to door. They had to struggle a little bit, but maybe there's a lot that didn't have to do that. As we see, when you see actors and everybody else who's got money that are running for office. You're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker, and we have presidential candidate Jasmine Sherman. She's from the Unicorn Party. Explain that party to me.
So the Unicorn Party is a united leftist party. You know, like the goal is to just provide, it's not a big tent party, right? If you are someone that wants all basic needs for humans provided for, you should join the Unicorn Party. It's the goal is to put people over profits. If you were like, well, you get to save one person, but it costs $50,000 for that syringe. We're going to spend the $50,000 to save the one person for the syringe. People over profits. What's the point of having money if you don't have the people? Do you know what
Right.
I'm saying? Consumerism is hurting us. And so the Unicorn Party is a new leftist party, a minor party that I that I'm a part of. Technically I did start it, but I'm not on the board. I no longer have any legal anything to do with it because I'm a candidate. Once I won my nomination, I had to separate myself.
Okay.
But it's just a party is just a vehicle to help someone get elected.
And so give me one word that would describe you. Can't think of that.
What? No, I can think of a word, but the problem is, right? Like when you the depending on what I say, people are gonna judge my attitude. And I'll just like to be honest, I'm not a humble person because I had low self-esteem about my intelligence for a very long time. I thought that I
Mhm.
was a crazy person. And so the word that I would use to describe me is tenacious. I'm
Okay.
never out. Like I'm never out. There is always something else I can do to move the needle. There is never a wall that is too big. But I also think tenacity is kind of obnoxious. So, but
Yeah,
I would,
that's
but
like
that's the
some
word.
people. Some people think confidence kind of cocky. Okay, but you have to have that cockiness to be confident. But you rub people, the wrong way.
It
So
does.
one
It
word.
does. I do at times. Like I'm one of those people. You either like me or you don't like me. And then when people are
Mhm,
like, "Well, I don't like your attitude, so I'm not going to vote for you." That's fine. I'm the only
mhm,
candidate that is offering guaranteed housing, universal health care, including dental, vision, and putting a safe use center, including a medical facility in every zip code. You don't have to like me at all. I
mhm.
wouldn't advise liking me. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to do a job. And I think that's the problem. People do not understand. The president, your elected officials, they're not here to be your friends. They're
Yeah,
here to do a job and then get out of the way so the next person can do the job that you sent them to do. All this hanging around, we're not a monarchy. This isn't a dynasty. Do your job and get out the way. Stop treating politicians like they're your friends because
right.
your friends don't really do a good job. You don't mix business and pleasure. So let a politician be the politician that works for you. That's just my advice.
There you go. So now let's talk about some of the policies. I've read your information. It's very interesting. Um, let's start with and so out of these, which one do you think your policies would be the easiest to put when you get in office?
The housing policy is the easiest policy.
Okay. And why is that?
The housing policy, because we would sign an executive order, because we would be ending houselessness in less than 90 days. There are already houses on the market that people want to sell. So we buy those
Mhm,
and then put people who don't have houses in them in them. You end houselessness in 90 days. But my executive order would be to use eminent domain so that
mhm,
no one has to pay housing or mortgage costs. It would be decommodifying housing, which means an elimination of property tax. If you own your own home, the money that you spent on your home would be paid back to you based on the laws for eminent domain where you live. The catch is the federal government has never lost an eminent domain case, especially when it's for public good. So for all the
mhm.
people like, they're not going to take my home, we're not. We're going to
Right.
give you the money you spent on it and allow you to remain in your home. And when you're ready to move, you will log onto like a Zillow app or an Airbnb type app and select the next house. Your house that you are in that you loved so much comes off the
Right.
market, gets updated, new wiring, HVAC, green accoutrements, so like atmospheric generator, wind energy or solar energy. It depends where your house is located, and then goes back on the market for the next family. And that is how it works.
And
There's
you think
no other
that's
candidate offering that. We
and
have a housing problem in this country, and it's not one because of scarcity. It's one because,
right. So where would money go in
say
for
it again.
this? I mean, this is one where this is one of the easiest ones that you have in your policy.
That's the easiest one. Yeah.
Easiest one. Okay. Okay.
It is
Um,
because nobody likes. So once so here's the thing. Imagine
mhm,
how much bargaining power you would have with your employer when you're like, I don't gotta worry about rent this month. You're gonna talk
right.
to me nice. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
People, when people can't hold you under their thumb or lord something over to you, the way you have a conversation, peer to peer, eye to eye, becomes very different.
Mhm,
Because if your housing is straight, if you know that you have health care, it's not tied to your job, your
right.
manager can only treat you like the person that they want to represent their company with respect. You don't have to stay in an abusive situation.
And what made you do 23? That's my favorite number too, though.
So there are more policies coming. 23 are just all that
Mhm,
have been done, legal, sound, and we can prove how we pay for it and how it would work. But there is one that we're working on to provide people with food no matter what.
Mhm.
That cost about $4 billion. So we have to make sure that that is all flushed out. We have another policy in regard to agriculture, the way we farm and the way we treat animals in captivity, right? So those are all things that still have to come down the pipeline, but they're not done yet. So there are more things to follow. The goal is to reset in one swoop, fix all the shit so we can have a
Right.
decent way to go. Another policy that I desperately need help from the community on is I hear a lot of input from single mothers. I
Mhm.
do not have a lot of input for single fathers in regard to how separations or disagreements about children work. We desperately still need to craft a policy around that legislation, like that area. And so, if your audience is listening, if you know people who are single fathers, we desperately want to hear from them.
And you know what? Ironically, I was a single dad and raised three kids, two daughters and a son. I was my own pro se and everything. And I can tell you how hard it is for men who are out there still trying to do the right thing to raise their kids because there's so much stigma and the media that pretty much says dads aren't around, but they don't really address that when dads are around and maybe the female isn't, then the kids turn out in a lot of ways even better. Some guys, dads are making a little bit more money than the moms, but when you're a single dad trying to raise three kids, that system doesn't help you, you know.
Correct. And so,
And,
and that's the problem, right? We have an unequal, unequitable system, and I want to correct that. But I can't do it without somebody to talk to, right? So
right,
I would
right.
love for you to schedule a meeting with me outside of this interview so I can hear what you went through and learn about your experiences so we can craft legislation to help men as well.
And it's funny because that's one of the reasons I wanted to get into politics because I saw how you can
So
change the
anybody that
laws
has
and everything.
anything that they want to
And I
share, we
always
want to
said
hear
I
from.
wanted to make it easier for men to take care of their kids. But my daughter told me years ago, she's like, Dad, you're helping these dads. They're not really out here. Why don't you just help people? So when I asked you about what was your one word, my one word is advocacy. Whether it's telling a story in the media or being a politician or just helping the community. And I found out my vested interest was at that time I was able to get total custody of my kids. And 15 years later, I was still fighting the courts, even though I had total custody. Okay. There aren't a lot of men that know where to turn to. And I always figure if we
Right.
know
That's
something,
atrocious.
yeah, if God puts you in a position, whatever you believe in a position to learn stuff, then you have to be the one to take those hits and do what, whoever you believe in gave you that talent. So now have you looked at this as you're running for president as, wow, this is a lot? Have you ever doubted yourself since you're running?
Okay, so if we're going to be honest, I did not know that this was as huge a thing
Mhm.
until about November of last year. I did not
Okay.
get the gravity of it because the initial part, right, meeting my staff, I met them on TikTok. Boom, 200 people.
Okay.
We That was easy. The crafting of policies. We're millennials, right? So we had all the data again through TikTok and social media. If we needed a professional, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, right? Those people were easy to find and they wanted to share. So the
Wow.
policy part, that wasn't hard either. The part that I was like, oh shit. I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
the part that I was like overwhelmed about was
Right.
like, okay, you have to get a tour bus. You got to get a tour bus. You got to set up all these tour dates and you got to go to all these cities. And the first place we had to go to was Mississippi. The first place I did go
Okay.
to was Alabama. And a woman tried to fight, but we weren't in the tour bus at the time. So we went just to meet with jail support and local grassroots organizers that help feed poor families in Alabama. And we were at this hibachi place. And the lady was like, how are you going to be an elected official and you don't believe in God? And tried to fight with me at the hibachi restaurant. And I let her know I'm a politician, but I ain't been elected yet.
Right.
So uh,
Right.
I match energy all day. And so one of the things that was like really profound was like, oh, these people are crazy. right? And then that's when the gravity of the situation, like, it doesn't matter, even though I'm an atheist, if my message is the same about feeding the hungry, clothing the sick,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know all of it. I'm not gonna pretend. But you know what I'm saying? If
Right,
my message are in line with their biblical beliefs and teaching, and they still don't want it because I'm not in the club, that lets
right.
me know we have a bigger problem. We have more people prepared to vote against their self interest because they're intellectually dishonest. And that was when the weight of what I was doing hit me. I then went to Mississippi, where a man was like, I'll sign your petition if you're doing it for Donald Trump. Mississippi is the poorest, most unhealthy state in the union. And I was like, and
Mhm.
you proud of this?
Right,
He's like, I don't want change. And Donald Trump, I'll sign your position if it's for Donald Trump. And I said, unfortunately, it's for me. It's not for Donald Trump.
right.
But I will admit, because Secretary of States are trying to embrace Donald Trump, it has been
Mhm.
a lot easier for an independent to get on the dotted line. And we
Oh,
have
wow.
used that to our advantage.
Okay,
But
okay.
yeah, so that about a year ago, talking to real people on the campaign trail is when I realized how big it was.
And isn't it interesting like that when people they really sincerely believe in you, but then sad when people say, well, you know what, those people in office never came and talked to me. How does that make you
I'm sorry.
feel? I said, how does that make you
Say
feel
that
when
one.
people believe in your message?
When people believe in it, because it broke up. Did you say how does it make me feel when people believe in my message or when they insult me?
When they believe in your message, how do you feel?
So I want to say when people say that they believe in my message, I tell them it's not my message, it's their message, right? You're not
Mhm.
voting for me for me. You're voting for me for you, right? All of the things that we're talking about should not be looked through a lens of how it helps Jasmine. It should be looked through the lens of how it helps you, the American, how it helps you, the voter. If you're talking to a politician that's not talking about anything that benefits you, and I mean
Right.
actually benefits you, you're wasting your time. And so when people tell me, I you give me hope. You give people do say a lot of nice things when I meet people who are really vibing with what I'm saying. And I say,
Mhm.
no, this is you advocating for you. At the end of the day, when you walk into that booth, right? Because I talk to people, I have a death penalty policy. And people are like, you're on the left. You're not supposed to. I've been in 3 mass shootings. I've been shot
Mhm.
twice. I have a death penalty policy. That's my like none of my policies are up for negotiation, right? And so I often meet people who go, well, I just don't like that policy. And
Mhm.
my question to them is, do you like Joe Biden's policies, all of them? Do you like Donald
Mhm.
Trump's policies, all of them? Do you like Barack Obama's policies, all of them? What I never understand sometimes is why people feel like because they meet me and I'm doing something different, why they
Right.
have to hold me to a higher standard that they don't currently hold other people to. And so that's really just the biggest thing is trying to get people that when you vote, it's not about the politician. It's about
Mhm.
you and yours.
So
Yeah,
tell me
pretty
about
much.
this death penalty policy.
Tell you about the what? I'm sorry, it's breaking up a little bit for me. What about
Tell me about the death penalty policy.
death penalty? Yeah, so I do believe that we should go with a restorative justice model. I believe we should abolish prisons, and I have a policy. And if you don't have time to read it, you click the audiobook link and it reads it to you. But
Mhm.
my policy is if you are in a scenario where you discharge a weapon and harm more than 3 people in one sitting, you are eligible for the death penalty. If you
No
harm
ifs,
more than
ands, or
3 people
buts.
in one sitting, yes, sir. Especially if
Mhm.
we've given you mental health care with through your universal health care policy, there's no reason for you to be exhibiting that kind of behavior.
And you have because I said I've read them. They're pretty interesting, different. So the sex workers policy.
Hmm.
Tell me about that, or tell us about
We are
that.
decrimin Yeah, so we are decriminalizing sex work. If you are someone that works in the adult industry, I mean, porn is already legal, right? So what we're talking about is different levels to what kind of adult entertainment you're looking for, right? We have strip clubs, those are sex workers. We
Mhm.
have prostitutes, they exist. It's the oldest profession, and we might as well make it something that is decriminalized and protect those individuals,
So
make it
I got a
safer.
question for that.
And that's
So
all my policy
they,
does.
they,
We met.
they phrase prostitutes now they're sex workers.
Yeah, so sex work can be a variety of things. Sex workers is a big umbrella, right? So you could sell
Mhm.
feet pictures on OnlyFans. That's still sex work, but you're not having sex with anybody. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Okay. Okay.
But there are people who are prostitutes, and I do not want to leave out prostitutes from the sex worker discussion because for some reason our purity culture shuns these individuals, and we shouldn't
Okay. And so
because
you're
they're people
talking
too.
about with them to give them what benefits? Is that what you were saying? Did you hear me? You were talking about giving them
So I,
benefits?
I couldn't really. Yes, giving so everyone in when I'm elected, everyone gets universal health care, right? Everyone would get
Hmm.
universal basic income. Everyone would get guaranteed housing. The benefits for a sex worker would be that if someone harms them, they can report it, right? And
Okay.
and seek recourse. If somebody they're no longer going to be held to like have to be under a pimp, right? So they're no longer being exploited, right? They'd be able to advertise safely. Those kinds of things are big deals.
And so my one thing I thought was, well, you have a lot of stuff. The reparations policy.
Are you
Explain
still
that
able
one a
to
little
hear me
bit.
by any chance? I can't tell if we got cut off.
So is that pretty controversial, the reparations?
So my reparations policy, I don't think it's controversial outside of the fact that I've encountered people who want more than
Hmm.
what we've set aside. And so for those people, I can say if my reparations policy doesn't work for you, you can always vote for a different politician offering reparations when they do. But my reparations policy provides everyone over the age of 16 who match the genotype and phenotype and descended from slaves that served, like that were slaves in the continent of where we are, United
Right.
States of America. They would pay reparations. It's about 4,000 per month to be paid out within all 4 years of my one term,
Okay.
and they would also get their genealogy. So it comes out to about $192,000 cash for everyone over the age of 16, plus their genealogy, not through like 23andMe, like actually something from the continent of Africa to show where you came from, right? To figure out who you are, right? Are you Kenyan? Are you Nigerian? I would
Right.
like to know what the other part of it is that we take all of the plantations that were in the United States and we give those to Black people as like artist colonies, safe spaces, places that they can live. Similar setup to how like a senior community works and helps with a niche group of people. It would work like that.
Okay. And was this the policy that was the money was coming from the cannabis, or did you have a policy in
The
there
way
that
the way
benefited?
that it's funded. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Cannabis. Yep, it is. No, no, it is. Mm-mm. So for my reparations policy, all the funds, because I know white people are nervous. They be like, I don't got it, and they don't. So the universal healthcare policy covers cannabis. Any cannabis funds, because that was what was used to lock up most of the Black people, the war on drugs. So we're using that money to right a wrong. So because it's covered under
Okay.
your universal healthcare policy, anytime you use your medicine, right, for cannabis, the money for the cannabis goes to pay reparations.
Wow. Okay. So
And that's how
you
it's paid.
believe that legalize marijuana and all this
Once
stuff?
the 4 years is up, the money would become an endowment.
Okay. 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 So we're going to finish up part one of this, and we're going to be back in a couple minutes. We've had on the show so far. We have to really continue this. Presidential candidate Jasmine Sherman